Now, users and groups, either local or they belong to an Active Directory LDAP source, can be defined globally or they can just be specific to an organization. So maybe I only have users that belong to one organization. Or maybe before, like we talked about, you can have a system administrator who can see all organizations. So wherever you define a user to limits or sets the scope of what they can see, consume, and also administer if that's the case. Groups allow for a common set of permissions based on maybe a job role or access level, and these can translate specifically to roles as well within vCloud Automation Center. So maybe I belong to a group in Active Directory, which I've then translated or set the mapping on the identity service side to translate to a specific role. In that case, any user that is added here or that belongs to the Active Directory, we check them, we see they belong to that group, they're automatically going to get mapped to that role. That way, we don't have to go into each individual user and set them to a specific organization or a group or a role. We can pull in attributes from Active Directory or local users as well to perform those actions. It saves a lot of time. Now, groups can be manually defined or also populated from identity source. So remember, we can map Active Directory users and groups to a group within VCAC, meaning we don't have to redefine all those users and that group structure. We can just pull it in as those attributes from an identity source. So not only can we specify permissions and resource allocations at a group, we can also get as granular as a user level too. So while in a more generic way we can apply permissions to a group or a role to save ourselves some time, you may have specific users who have needs that don't fit those that the role defines or of their group. Maybe they need increased resources or they should see an additional catalog item. So you can actually do that on a user by user basis for exceptions or to allow things that their group may not already allow. It's also important to note that all workflows and blueprints are also run from the user context. This means that even if you're logged in as an administrator, blueprint items run from that context of whatever user clicks on them. So unless you define a specific service account or user account for it to run in, say like a script that the blueprint's running, that user is going to actually run the blueprint under their credentials. So that's why you'll want to test out any permissions or deployment methods with their own user group, because sometimes you can run into areas where you as an administrator might have permissions, but the user doesn't. So VCAC actually lets you run those blueprint items from the user's context within your administrative panel. There's actually a drop-down box that says, run user or run as user. So in that way, we can actually test out if the blueprints or workflows are going to work properly without having to actually have the user do it themselves.